What if the reason people don't respect you isn't because you're too weak, but because you're trying too hard to be liked? Most people are taught that kindness, agreement, and being easy to deal with are the keys to earning respect. But if that were true, why are so many good people constantly ignored, overlooked, and taken for granted? Why do some individuals walk into a room and instantly command attention without raising their voice, while others spend years trying to prove their value and still remain invisible? It's a question that psychology has explored for decades, and the answer is far more uncomfortable than most people are willing to admit. Machiavelli understood something about human nature that many still refuse to accept today. Respect is not given to those who desperately seek it. In fact, the more someone depends on approval, the less authority they tend to project. The moment your confidence relies on other people's opinions, you've handed them control over your emotions, your decisions, and ultimately your life. Now here's where things get interesting. The people who possess unshakable confidence aren't necessarily the loudest, richest, or most charismatic individuals in the room. Often, they're the ones who have mastered emotional detachment. They've stopped chasing validation. They've learned the art of strategic silence. They've developed a level of psychological power that makes others feel their presence, even when they're saying very little. And strangely enough, that kind of confidence can make people uncomfortable. Because when someone can no longer be manipulated by praise, guilt, criticism, or social pressure, they become unpredictable. They stop following invisible rules. They stop apologizing for existing. They begin operating from an entirely different frame of mind, a Machiavellian mindset rooted not in controlling others, but in mastering themselves. In this video, you'll discover why most people unknowingly sabotage their own authority, how to break free from the need for approval, and how to develop a presence so strong, calm, and self-assured that it changes the way people see you forever. By the end, you'll understand why true confidence isn't about being admired by everyone. It's about becoming impossible to control. There's a pattern that shows up in almost every person who struggles to earn genuine respect. They spend too much energy trying to be liked. On the surface, it seems harmless, even noble. They say yes when they want to say no. They avoid conflict at all costs. They constantly adjust their behavior to fit other people's expectations. Yet, according to psychology, the more someone chases approval, the less valuable their presence often appears. What begins as kindness slowly turns into dependence on validation. A wise observer quickly notices something interesting about human nature. People rarely respect what is always available and eager to please. A person who constantly seeks permission to exist sends a silent message that their worth depends on external acceptance. That message is picked up subconsciously by everyone around them. Machiavelli understood this dynamic centuries ago. He recognized that power is not only about actions, but also about perception. The person who needs approval becomes predictable, and predictability weakens influence. Imagine someone in a workplace who never disagrees with anyone. They volunteer for every task, apologize excessively, and constantly seek reassurance that they're doing a good job. At first, others may appreciate their cooperation, but over time, something unexpected happens. Their opinions start carrying less weight. Their boundaries become invisible. Their generosity is no longer admired. It's expected. This is one of the hidden traps psychology repeatedly reveals about social dynamics. What was meant to create connection quietly erodes authority. The deeper problem is that approval-seeking creates an invisible fear. A person becomes afraid of disappointing others, afraid of being criticized, afraid of being misunderstood. Every decision starts passing through a filter of what will they think, rather than what is right. This fear slowly steals freedom. It becomes impossible to develop unshakable confidence when self-worth depends on the reactions of other people. The individual may appear friendly on the outside while feeling trapped on the inside, constantly managing impressions instead of building character. Many people don't realize that psychological power often begins when someone accepts that not everyone will approve of them. A mentor once shared an observation that changed the perspective of many students. He said that every respected leader eventually disappoints someone. Every admired figure is criticized. Every person with influence attracts resistance. The The attempt to avoid disapproval entirely is like trying to walk through a storm without getting wet. It sounds reasonable, but reality doesn't work that way. This is where the first shift begins. Instead of chasing validation, a person starts paying attention to self-respect. Instead of asking how to make everyone comfortable, they begin asking how to remain aligned with their values. That transition isn't always easy. In fact, it often feels uncomfortable at first. Yet hidden within that discomfort lies the foundation of a stronger identity, a deeper emotional detachment, and the first signs of a true Machiavellian mindset. And once that foundation starts forming, something even more powerful enters the picture. The strategic use of silence. One of the biggest misunderstandings in modern social life is the belief that being nice automatically earns respect. It doesn't. Respect and niceness are not the same currency. A person can be kind, generous, and compassionate, while still being strong and disciplined. The problem begins when kindness becomes weakness, disguised as virtue. Psychology shows that people naturally test boundaries, whether they realize it or not. When someone never enforces those boundaries, others instinctively stop taking them seriously. A disciplined person operates differently. They don't need to prove they're good. They don't constantly explain themselves. They don't rush to defend every decision or justify every choice. Their behavior speaks for them. Machiavelli understood that authority often grows in silence rather than in endless explanations. The individual who remains calm while others scramble to gain approval creates an entirely different impression. Instead of chasing attention, they attract it. Instead of demanding respect, they quietly invite it. Think about two people entering the same room. One immediately starts talking, filling every pause, seeking validation through jokes, stories, and constant interaction. The other observes first. They listen more than they speak. Their words are measured and deliberate. Surprisingly, the second person often appears more confident. This isn't magic, it's psychology at work. Human beings naturally assign value to what appears controlled, intentional, and difficult to read. The mystery itself becomes part of the influence. Strategic silence is one of the most underrated forms of psychological power. Most people feel uncomfortable with silence, so they rush to fill it. They reveal too much, explain too much, and sometimes negotiate against themselves without realizing it. A person who masters silence gains an enormous advantage. During a disagreement, they pause instead of reacting. During criticism, they observe instead of defending immediately. During negotiation, they allow silence to create pressure. The quiet person often learns more because everyone else is busy talking. There is also tremendous strength in controlling facial expressions and emotional reactions. A person who reacts to everything becomes easy to manipulate. Their emotional buttons are visible for everyone to press. Someone practicing emotional detachment learns a different approach. When insulted, they don't immediately explode. When praised, they don't become intoxicated by approval. They maintain balance. It's similar to a captain steering a ship through rough waters. The waves may be violent, but the direction remains steady. Many influential figures throughout history understood this principle intuitively. The less they revealed emotionally, the more difficult they became to predict. And unpredictability creates presence. This doesn't mean becoming cold or robotic. It means choosing responses rather than surrendering to impulses. A person with a developing Machiavellian mindset understands that emotional discipline often communicates more strength than any display of dominance ever could. Sometimes the strongest statement in a room is the one that remains unspoken. Yet silence alone is not enough. A person can stay quiet and still secretly depend on the opinions of others. They can master their expressions while their confidence rises and falls based on external validation. And that raises a deeper question. What happens when approval is removed entirely? What remains when nobody is clapping, praising, or agreeing? That's where the next transformation begins, and where unshakable confidence is truly forged. Before we continue, let me tell you something. If what you've heard so far resonates with you, if you've realized how seeking approval weakens your presence and how strategic silence can completely change the way people perceive you, then you'll want to read my ebook, The Silent Influence Code. Inside, you'll discover the psychological signals that shape how people perceive, trust, and respond to you, inspired by timeless Machiavellian principles and modern psychology. If you're tired of being overlooked and want to develop a presence that naturally commands respect, click the link in the pinned comment and get your copy now. Now, let's go deeper into what truly creates unshakable confidence. Most people believe confidence comes from success, compliments, or recognition. But those things are unreliable foundations. One day the applause is there, and the next day it's gone. One day people agree with you, and the next they criticize you. When confidence depends on outside approval, it becomes fragile by design. Psychology repeatedly demonstrates that emotional stability cannot be built on circumstances that are constantly changing. The person who ties their self-worth to public opinion ends up riding an endless emotional roller coaster. A mentor once compared external validation to borrowing money. At first, it feels helpful. It provides a temporary boost and creates a sense of security. But eventually, the debt comes due. The individual becomes dependent on praise, attention, and reassurance just to feel valuable. They begin checking whether people approve of them before making decisions. Without realizing it, they hand control of their emotions to strangers. This is precisely the opposite of psychological power. Real power begins when emotional ownership returns to the individual. Machiavelli understood that people are often inconsistent. They praise today and criticize tomorrow. They support what benefits them and abandon what no longer serves their interests. A person who expects permanent validation from others is placing their peace of mind in unstable hands. The wiser path is developing an internal standard. Instead of asking, "Do they approve of me?" they ask, "Did I act according to my principles?" That shift may seem small, but it changes everything. It transforms confidence from something borrowed into something built. Consider a simple example. Someone posts an idea online and receives criticism. One person spends the entire day obsessing over negative comments, replaying every insult in their mind. Another person reviews the criticism objectively, extracts any useful lesson, and moves forward. The difference isn't intelligence, it's emotional detachment. The second individual understands that criticism is information, not identity. They refuse to let another person's opinion become the ruler of their emotional state. That mindset creates freedom most people never experience. One practical technique involves creating a personal scorecard. At the end of each day, instead of measuring success by praise or popularity, a person evaluates their actions. Did they keep their word? Did they maintain discipline? Did they act with integrity? Did they move closer to their goals? This practice strengthens unshakable confidence because the source of validation shifts inward. Over time, the opinions of others still matter, but they no longer control the emotional weather inside the mind. Another important lesson is learning how to handle manipulation disguised as criticism. Some people intentionally provoke reactions because emotional responses give them influence. They insult, mock, or challenge simply to gain control of the interaction. A person developing a Machiavellian mindset recognizes this pattern quickly. Instead of reacting impulsively, they observe, they pause, they ask themselves whether the comment deserves attention at all. More often than not, the strongest response is refusing to play the game. As this internal independence grows, something remarkable starts to happen. Confidence no longer feels forced, it becomes natural. The individual walks differently, speaks differently, and carries themselves differently without trying. And before long, the body begins communicating that inner transformation to the world, revealing another powerful layer of psychology that most people completely overlook. Long before a person speaks, their body has already introduced them. Psychology reveals that human beings form impressions within seconds, often before a single word is exchanged. Posture, eye contact, movement, and physical presence communicate information faster than language ever could. Most people focus entirely on what they say, while ignoring what their body is broadcasting. Yet the body often tells the truth that words attempt to hide. A nervous posture can undermine a confident message, while calm presence can strengthen even the simplest statement. One of the easiest ways to understand this principle is to observe someone entering a room. There are individuals who seem invisible, despite trying hard to be noticed. Then there are others who quietly attract attention without demanding it. The difference often has little to do with appearance and much more to do with presence. Machiavelli understood that perception shapes reality in social environments. A person who carries themselves with certainty influences how others respond before any conversation even begins. Posture plays a larger role than most people realize. When someone constantly hunches their shoulders, lowers their head, and makes themselves physically smaller, the brain receives signals associated with uncertainty. On the other hand, standing upright with relaxed shoulders and balanced movements sends a completely different message. Interestingly, this isn't only about how others perceive them. Their own mind begins responding differently as well. Body language creates a feedback loop. The body influences the mind just as much as the mind influences the body. Eye contact is another powerful tool that separates confidence from insecurity. Many people either avoid eye contact entirely or overcompensate by staring aggressively. Neither approach creates genuine authority. True confidence exists in the middle ground. A calm, steady gaze communicates comfort, awareness, and control. Strategic silence becomes even more powerful when combined with composed eye contact. A person who can remain quiet while maintaining presence often creates more impact than someone speaking continuously to fill every moment of discomfort. A practical exercise can dramatically improve physical presence. For 1 week, a person can focus on slowing down their movements. They can walk slightly slower, pause briefly before responding, and eliminate unnecessary fidgeting. At first, it feels unusual. Many people discover they have been rushing through interactions for years without noticing, but slowing down sends a subconscious signal of control. People with psychological power rarely appear hurried because they are not seeking permission, approval, or urgency from everyone around them. Another overlooked element is emotional consistency. A person whose expressions constantly fluctuate based on every comment becomes predictable. Their emotional state is visible for everyone to read. Someone practicing emotional detachment develops a different rhythm. They remain composed during praise and criticism alike. This doesn't make them emotionless. It makes them stable. Stability creates trust, and trust often evolves into respect. The calm individual becomes the emotional anchor in environments where everyone else is reacting impulsively. Over time, these small adjustments create something difficult to describe, but impossible to ignore. People begin responding differently. Conversations feel different. Opportunities appear more frequently. Yet physical presence alone is not enough to sustain influence. Eventually, others begin asking a different question. What makes this person valuable? And the answer has far less to do with appearance and far more to do with scarcity, competence, and the strategic protection of one's time. One of the most misunderstood principles in psychology is that value is often connected to availability. Most people assume that the more accessible they are, the more appreciated they will become. Yet reality tends to work differently. When someone is always available, always responding instantly, always adjusting their schedule for everyone else, their presence gradually becomes ordinary. Human beings naturally appreciate what feels scarce. This isn't manipulation, it's simply part of how perception works. What is constantly available rarely feels special. Machiavelli understood that influence requires boundaries. A person who gives unlimited access to their time unknowingly lowers its perceived value. Think about individuals who seem respected wherever they go. They are not necessarily rude or distant. In fact, many are quite friendly. The difference is that they protect their attention carefully. They understand that time is one of the few resources that can never be replaced. Every unnecessary commitment comes at the expense of something more important. That awareness alone creates a stronger sense of personal authority. A practical example appears in everyday relationships. Imagine two people. One immediately answers every message, accepts every invitation, and rearranges their priorities whenever someone calls. The other responds thoughtfully, honors their existing commitments, and refuses to abandon their goals for temporary distractions. Which person appears more grounded? Which one seems to have direction? Psychology consistently shows that people respect those who respect their own time. Boundaries communicate self-worth more effectively than endless availability ever could. Another powerful lesson involves learning to walk away. Many people remain in situations that drain their energy simply because they fear losing approval or opportunities. They tolerate disrespect, one-sided relationships, and environments that no longer serve their growth. A person developing a Machiavellian mindset understands that walking away is sometimes the ultimate display of confidence. The ability to leave what no longer aligns with personal values demonstrates independence. Ironically, people often gain more respect the moment they stop desperately trying to keep everything. Scarcity alone, however, is not enough. Mystery without substance eventually collapses. Real influence requires competence. This is where unshakable confidence is truly built. Confidence does not come from repeating positive affirmations all day. It comes from evidence. It comes from keeping promises, developing skills, solving problems, and accumulating experience. The person who knows they can perform under pressure carries a completely different energy. Their confidence is no longer theoretical. It is supported by reality. A mentor once explained this through a simple analogy. He said, "Confidence built on compliments is like a house built on sand. It may look impressive for a while, but the first storm exposes its weakness. Competence, on the other hand, is solid ground. Every skill learned, every challenge overcome, and every difficult lesson mastered adds another layer of psychological power. The individual no longer needs constant reassurance because they possess proof of their capabilities. As competence grows and scarcity becomes intentional, something interesting begins to happen. Not everyone likes it. Some people become uncomfortable when they can no longer access, control, or influence someone so easily. Boundaries start creating friction. Independence attracts misunderstanding, and that leads directly to one of the final lessons on the path toward true emotional detachment and lasting personal sovereignty. One of the hardest lessons a person can learn is that growth often changes how others perceive them. The moment someone begins setting boundaries, protecting their time, and prioritizing self, reactions start to shift. People who once benefited from unlimited access may suddenly call them distant. Those who were comfortable crossing boundaries may label them selfish. According to psychology, this discomfort is completely normal. When a person's behavior changes, the expectations of others are challenged, and not everyone welcomes that change with open arms. Many individuals spend years trying to avoid being misunderstood. They explain every decision, justify every choice, and seek endless opportunities to prove their good intentions. Yet this creates a trap. The more someone depends on being understood by everyone, the more control they surrender. Machiavelli recognized that influential people are often judged unfairly because they prioritize effectiveness over universal approval. Trying to satisfy every interpretation is like trying to catch the wind with bare hands. The effort never truly ends. A useful perspective is realizing that misunderstanding is not always a sign that something is wrong. Sometimes it is evidence that a person has finally stopped living according to other people's expectations. Imagine someone who has always been available for every request. The first time they politely say no, others may react negatively, not because the boundary is unreasonable, but because the pattern has changed. The discomfort belongs to the observer, not necessarily to the person establishing the boundary. This understanding strengthens emotional detachment and protects inner peace. One of the defining characteristics of unshakable confidence is the ability to remain aligned with personal values even when approval disappears. This doesn't mean becoming arrogant or dismissive. It means refusing to betray oneself for temporary acceptance. A person with genuine confidence can listen to criticism without collapsing. They can hear disagreement without becoming defensive. They can stand alone when necessary because their identity is rooted in principles rather than popularity. That level of stability becomes increasingly rare in a world driven by constant validation. Over time, this creates a form of psychological power that cannot easily be manipulated. Manipulators depend on emotional reactions. They rely on guilt, fear, approval, or pressure to influence behavior. But when someone develops a strong internal foundation, those tactics lose much of their effectiveness. The individual begins responding intentionally rather than reacting automatically. They become harder to control because their decisions originate from self-respect rather than emotional dependency. The game changes the moment emotional ownership returns to the individual. The Machiavellian mindset is often misunderstood as merely learning how to influence others. In reality, its deepest lesson is learning how to govern oneself. Before anyone can master external circumstances, they must first master their own emotions, impulses, and insecurities. Strategic silence, emotional discipline, competence, and self-respect all point toward the same destination. They transform confidence from a performance into a permanent state of being. What once required effort gradually becomes natural. Eventually, a person reaches a point where praise no longer intoxicates them and criticism no longer controls them. They walk into rooms without needing attention and leave conversations without seeking validation. Their presence speaks before they do. Their decisions are guided by principles rather than pressure. And in a world full of people desperately trying to be accepted, that quiet independence becomes one of the rarest and most respected forms of strength. Now, the question is simple. What are you going to do with this knowledge? Most people will hear these ideas, nod their heads, and then go right back to seeking approval, over-explaining themselves, reacting emotionally, and giving away their power. But a small percentage of people will decide that enough is enough. They'll start setting boundaries. They'll practice strategic silence. They'll stop allowing other people's opinions to determine their worth. And little by little, they'll develop the kind of unshakable confidence that changes every area of their lives. Take a moment and be honest with yourself. How many decisions have you made just to avoid disappointing someone else? How often do you hold back your true thoughts because you're afraid of criticism? Are you building your life around your own values or around the expectations of other people? And perhaps the most important question of all, who would you become if you no longer needed anyone's permission to be yourself? Remember, psychological power isn't about controlling others. It's about refusing to be controlled. It's about developing the discipline, emotional detachment, and self-respect necessary to remain calm when others panic, confident when others doubt, and focused when others seek distractions. That's the deeper lesson hidden within the teachings of Machiavelli and the psychology of influence. The transformation won't happen overnight, but every time you choose self-respect over approval, discipline over impulse, and purpose over validation, you're strengthening a mindset that very few people ever develop. A true Machiavellian mindset begins with self-mastery, and self-mastery begins with the decisions you make when nobody is watching. So tell me in the comments, which lesson from today's video impacted you the most? What's one behavior you're going to change starting today? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this video and want to keep learning about psychology, Machiavelli, strategic silence, psychological power, emotional detachment, and unshakable confidence, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and turn on notifications so you never miss a future lesson. Your next level is waiting. The only question is whether you're ready to step into it.